Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Informatics workshop. It's good to see all of you. I'm Amos Golan, co-host together with my colleague Aman of UC Riverside and with the workshop committee member, Rosella from Bologna, Natalie from the Hebrew University, and Min from Oxford. I must start, however, with very sad news that many of you are already familiar with, that you already know. Our colleague and friend, J. Michael Dunn, known as Mike, passed away earlier this week. Mike was planning on being here today. In fact, he was very excited to be part of this. He was planning to discuss some of the logical and philosophical foundations of informatics. I just couldn't bring myself to take his name off the program. It is too new, too fresh, and just too sad. We will make a special event to honor him, but I would like to start the day with some reflections and to dedicate this meeting to him on behalf of the Institute. Mike was a true scientist, a real academic. He was searching for the truth. He was searching for answers to some of the most fundamental questions in philosophy, philosophy of science, and logic. Why? Because he was curious. He wanted to understand. Science and the act of searching for answers to fundamental questions made him happy, even if the solution demanded a few years of hard work and novel innovations. Mike was a perfect family man. He and Sally, his wife, were inseparable. He was a proud father and grandfather. I feel like I know each one of his kids and grandkids personally. I can tell you, for example, that one of his grandchildren was playing constantly with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this. And Mike was so excited to learn that one of them is called Michelangelo and the other one Raphael. I remember sitting with him and Rafi Levine in Boulder, Colorado during one of our workshops, and believe it or not, the topic was Ninja Turtles. You probably didn't expect me to talk about Ninja Turtles today. It was a joy to hear and feel his love to his family. I met Mike for the first time about 10 years ago when we invited him to our first Philosophy of Information workshop. This was pretty much the early stages of this new branch of philosophy. But Mike had already established himself as one of the authorities in this area. Mike is a logician and philosopher. Mike also knew how to connect logic and information. One of his celebrated contributions is to the informational interpretation of logic. A relatively recent book in his honor called Information-Based Logic summarizes his work wonderfully. In his dissertation, he introduced a semantic for first-degree entailments utilizing the idea that a sentence can provide positive or negative information about a topic, possibly supplying both or neither. The basic notion of negative information is a tough one, but it did not stop Mike. Those of you who heard one of his talks here recall his discussion about conflicting information, the Firefighter story. Imagine you're in a burning room in a hotel, but like everyone else, you did not read the emergency instructions in your room. You go out of your room and you see two firefighters. One says there is an exactly one safe route and it is to your left. The other says there is exactly one safe route and it is to your right. Contradictory information. What do? You can't just average. That simple example stirred up quite a discussion and ended up a while later with a nice new paper Mike completed with one of our colleagues, Nick Kiefer. It happens that information theory together with Bayes' rule can find a safe way with a high probability. Again, you probably didn't expect me to talk about firefighters today. But maybe this example explains Mike's approach to science in a clear way. In his search for answers related to semantic and logic and more complete investigation and into the interpretation of negations and other problems, he realized that he ran out of words and tools that will allow him to complete his search. He needed an improved alphabet. Think, for example, how would you explain black hole if you don't know how to find it and you don't have tools to indirectly observe it? Well, you may try to find a black hole, go in and search, good luck, or develop a new, better tools like those that scientists developed lately. This is exactly what Mike did in his work on logic. He invented, or if you wish, derived or developed a new and more general logic. This new language was generalization of what existed before. It is richer, it has an improved alphabet, it allows him to complete the task and prove what he was searching for. So in my reflections today on Mike, I could not escape talking about Ninja Turtles, firefighters, and black holes. I wish he can hear this. Since his first visit to the Institute, Mike became a constant, as Robin wrote to me yesterday, in all of our activities. In fact, very soon after his first visit with us and following many conversations on all facets of information and informatics, we invited Mike to be on our advisory board. And in the last few years, he was generous enough and agreed to co-chair the advisory board together with Robin. Mike was a major force in the Institute. His enthusiasm in conjunction with his knowledge and curiosity resulted in our many successful workshops, events, and research. I had the pleasure of working jointly with him on a number of projects, papers. Most recent one is about the meaning and value of information. What a joy it was to work with him. Mike was also a co-editor together with myself, Min, and Aman, of our new book, Advances of Informatics, that just came out a few months ago. On a more personal note, we tried to meet often and we talked as often as we could. We discussed information and the way it is the connecting theme among practically all of sciences. We try to solve different paradoxes, say how do you handle conflicting or even complementary pieces of information. We try to understand the real meaning and value of information. My students are familiar with questions like, if a tree falls in the forest with no one around, would there be information? Or if no tree falls in a forest and you are there to observe it, or no one is around, would there be information? Such idea came from years of discussion and reflections with Mike. I will miss these conversations. I will miss seeing him a few times a year. I will miss our quiet, frequent phone conversations. He did not like Skype. I feel lucky to have known Mike. I feel lucky to have worked with him. I feel lucky to have had all of these wonderful discussions with him. It was a joy, a pleasure, and an honor. Thank you, Mike. And now let me follow on Mike's wishes and move to science. Before we do so, I want to briefly introduce our Dean who will welcome us all. Professor Max Paul Friedman is the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at American University. This is the largest by far college at American University. It is real arts and sciences and humanities as well. Professor Friedman is also a history professor in the college. He also holds appointment as Professor of International Relations in the School of International Service. All yours, Max.
Thank you, Amos, for that kind introduction. American University welcomes you all to this Infometrics workshop. We are pleased to be co-hosting it along with other illustrious institutions, the Center for Science of Information at Purdue University and the Rini Center for Economic Analysis. This is the first virtual meeting after a decade or so of in-person workshops and conferences organized by AU's Infometrics Institute, directed by Amos and spanning many interdisciplinary aspects of Infometrics. Today, we will take a deep dive into the most recent advances and the future of Infometrics research. The researchers, faculty, and students among you will be looking at the interdisciplinary research and its implications among fields as diverse yet interconnected as information theory, AI, machine learning, data science, economics, econometrics, statistics, and even philosophy and social equity, as well as COVID-19. This is a forum for you to explore recent advances as well as learn about new research, both in theory and application. Multidisciplinary exploration is in the DNA of American University. So we are very happy to have you with us and look forward to following your sessions today. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Max. Thank you very much. Before we move on to the first session and to a day full of information, I'd like to suggest a number of things. First, it will be nice if everyone will have their cameras on. Most of you do, assuming you want, of course. So it creates a nice environment. Second, I suggest, my preference is if we avoid public chatting. If you have questions, please chat directly with the session chairs. If you need to chat with someone, please do it use a private chat. Thank you. It's good to see all of you, and let's start the fun. Robin, it's all yours.